Yo, what's good? It is Tony, and I am back for another video and back into the YouTube space. As you all noticed, it's been a while since I've posted anything onto my channel, and within good reason. I have been traveling for the majority of my summer, and it's been a phenomenal time being able to venture out and check out some new cities, revisit some old places near and dear to my heart, and just being able to travel and experience what this world and this beautiful land has to offer us. So with that being said, I just want to knock out a few different little things that I wanted to talk about before I get this video cracking. I just want to talk about the fact that I am about 2 weeks away from retiring from active duty service in the United States Navy. And it has been quite the ride. And it's not finished yet because I still have some time left. Those 2 weeks is a period of time where I start to transition into a program called Skill Bridge, where I essentially do some courses and things like that in preparation to take me to the next step after my official retirement date. So I have had a bunch of leave that I had to burn, and I have had the privilege and the opportunity to visit some places that I've been wanting to check out for some time. One of those places, as you can see from this hat, Boston. And for those that do know me, I am from Lawrence, Massachusetts. I was born there, and Lawrence, Essex County, and Boston has a very special place in my heart because, you know, that's where I was born, and majority of my family is from Massachusetts. So being able to go visit, it was a phenomenal time, and I just really want to touch on my time spent in Boston, traveling and being a tourist, and obviously, while we're here on this channel, photography. So let's get into it. So just like any other photography trip video, the most important thing that we're going to talk about, aside from the actual photography, is the gear that we brought with us, right? So without exception, let's gonna get into the bag and the cameras that I brought with me, because I shoot film and digital, so I mostly carry two bodies on my trips. So let's get into that. So this was my everyday carry bag from Molten Craft. Phenomenal bag, but I am not going to get into that in this video because that would probably take a good chunk of this time. So let's get into the cameras. So for my film camera, I brought the Nikon F3 with a few rolls, mostly Portra 400, and my digital camera, which is the Leica M11 with the right now I have the 50 millimeter on it, but I mostly shot with the Mandler 35 millimeter, which I will have another video on that Mandler 35 because it is an amazing glass for the price. So the time in Boston was relatively short. We were there for probably about 4 days or so. In typical, you know, Tony fashion, when we travel to these places, we try to get there early so that way we can maximize that day of travel and see things and be able to do things and not just, you know, just get to the location and then, I don't know, go to sleep and then start the next day. I like to get somewhere early enough so that way I can enjoy at least some of that day, you know, kind of in a sense buy some of that time back from, you know, sitting on airplanes and being at the airport and things like that. You know, it gives me an opportunity to kind of like just stretch my legs and not just go straight to a hotel. With that being said, once we got to Boston, we got to the hotel to drop off our bags and things like that. We stayed at this hotel just behind Fenway Park, Verb Hotel, if you have not heard of it. Extremely chic. It has the rock and roll vibe going on, and I thoroughly enjoyed, you know, saying like the nostalgia of it and, you know, the novelty of a location like that, because it was really cool. It was really well thought out. The rooms were pretty cool, and just overall the entire vibe, super dope. If you have not been to Boston and you want to stay at a really cool hotel that is conveniently placed just behind Fenway Park and just like the surrounding area, super dope and pretty decently priced. So check those guys out. I'm not getting paid by them. I just really like that place, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody who's visiting Boston. One of the first things that we did when we got there, we dropped off our bags and automatically just hit the ground running. And in tourist fashion, we did one of the duck tours. And I think, honestly, like doing a first day tour around a place that you haven't really visited, I think it's kind of beneficial because, you know, if you're doing one of those tours where you're being driven around and things like that, you know, that you kind of get an idea of what the location has to offer. So then that way, when you're out and you're doing your photography, you kind of have already got an idea of where to go and where to visit to, you know, essentially, like if you're there for just tourism or you're there to do photography, then you kind of have an idea of where you want to go and the kind of things you want to photograph. You know, the duck tours, they go in the water, so we were able to go, you know, in the water, through the river, and being able to see things from a different perspective that you would, you know, like if you're on the streets. So pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. And it was just kind of an opportunity to kind of like kick back and just kind of see everything and then kind of get my bearings on where I wanted to go check out. We finished that tour. That's when we started to walk around and kind of lightly brush over certain areas that I really want to check out. One of those being the public library, which, you know, you've probably seen time and time again on Instagram. And I was not going to miss out on an opportunity to go check it out just because I've seen it on Instagram over like 1,000 times probably. So did that. That was a pretty cool library. Obviously it's Instagrammable for a reason. Very picturesque, well kept. I really love like the architecture, you know, obviously like in the New England area. I've been to Europe a couple times already, so going to Boston kind of felt like going to like a baby London or something like that. But mostly the architecture, everything else, not so much London, but definitely loved the architecture around Boston. Oh my God. It's like a time capsule in a sense in a lot of areas because it's so well preserved and they were just maintained it and it has that charm. I really enjoyed, you know, my time in Boston. So once we checked out the Boston library and kind of just walked around and checked things out, you know, went back to the room and got pretty much get a reset for the next day and get into the other activities that we had planned. So the next day we got up pretty early. We had breakfast at the hotel, and then, like I said, Fenway Park is like right there next to the hotel. So we took a tour around the Fenway Park, and unfortunately the Red Sox were not playing that weekend that we came to visit, so didn't get a chance to watch my boys play. However, I did have a good time checking out the Fenway Park and getting some history lessons on the park and just being able to just walk around and get a feel. I have never been to a Boston Red Sox game at home in Boston, so unfortunately I did not have the opportunity this time again, but hopefully the next time I visit I will plan around a game and be able to check that out. So with that being said, some of the photos that I was able to get while I was there, and it's just honestly a different kind of feel of getting photos at the park when it's completely empty compared to like during a game. You have a little more room to play with and kind of just walk around, and that tour gives you access to areas that you normally wouldn't probably have access to unless you had a ticket for those like seats. I really thought that was a fun activity to do early in the morning before we got the day started. After that, it was basically just kind of walking around. We were checking out different areas and things like that. One of the areas that I was really interested in checking out was the Chinatown area, and it did not disappoint, you know, because it's such a busy city. You definitely get to see a lot of foot traffic, which I normally don't get to see when I'm here in Tampa. So I definitely enjoyed doing the street photography in Boston. I had a really good time. One of the other areas that I was really excited to check out was the North End, which is basically a little Italy. The whole area in itself did not disappoint. I thought it was really cool to see people actually outside and hanging out on their stoops and just kind of just enjoying the day, being outside and hanging out with your neighbors and things like that, with your friends, playing basketball or pickleball, things like that. I just really enjoyed being able to see the community and how they interact in their environment. I thought that was really cool. Really enjoyed walking around that area. Thought that was a good time. One of the other things that I was pretty excited about was going whale watching. So we took one of the tours, went to go check out some whales. Sadly, I did not record any video of the whales, but it was super cool. I was able to get like one photo. Now, mind you, I was shooting with like a M11 and I had the 50mm lens on it. Now, this is where a rangefinder camera could be at a disadvantage in situations like that, because there were guys out there with like the 200 to 300mm like lenses, and they were getting like the fins and the whales breaching and stuff like that. Whereas, you know, 50mm on out in the water looks like a dot, you know, when you're on your subject. So didn't get, like, I would say the best photos I could possibly get when I was out there, you know, due to the limitations of having, you know, my longest lens is 50mm. So it is what it is. I got one photo of it, which I thought was pretty cool, you know, just for memory purposes. I'll throw it up here just so you guys can see. But do take note that if you're gonna go out there and you're gonna go whale watching, you're definitely gonna need a longer lens. It is what it is. Last day before we had to fly back out, we went out to Salem and we hung out there for a while. And it was pretty cool to go out there. You know, it wasn't during like that season, Halloween season, so, you know, it's not that active. However, there was a market, and there were quite a few people that were still walking around and hanging out and having a good time. Despite the weather, it was pretty gloomy, but I guess that's like just New England weather in general. So definitely had a good time just going out there and just checking out the scenes. I'm the type of person that I take locations for what they are, and how it is, and I try not to place an expectation of what I want it to be, because then that's just gonna steal my joy and fill me with disappointment. So I just try to enjoy the area for what it is and what it has to offer at that time of day, despite whatever the weather looks like, except for rain, because I don't want to get my gear wet. So other than that, I think it was an overall amazing trip. I loved it. It was a pleasure going out there and visiting a city that I have not been able to visit for some time. I want to say the last time I went was in 2013. So a little over a decade since I've been able to go back and visit. And, you know, this time going back and doing photography, I was able to, you know, piece some memories together and being able to walk around and enjoy the city. Thoroughly love Boston. Can't wait to go back and visit my family and just enjoy being in a metropolitan type city. I really enjoy those kind of cities because they have so much to offer, and the diversity and just the culture in general. I thoroughly enjoy being around that kind of environment, and I look forward to going back. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will check you all on the next one. Peace.